Hey guys, welcome to Rosebud Thorn.
So this is our weekly segment where we get to jump through kind of everybody's Rosebud and Thorn from last week and maybe give a little bit of advice.
And we're doing really good because we've been doing bi-weekly and now we're on to a weekly. So toot toot.
That is a win at Dominion House.
So these are the Rosebud Thorns from April 28th through to May 3rd. All right, without further ado.
All right, so number one this week we have Jessica. So Jessica's rose is her nutrition, keeping on track and getting to try different foods. That's awesome. Bud, so what's coming along for Jess is being more accountable and making sure I get those workouts in. I love that. We're starting to work through those workouts. That's awesome. And the Thorn, it's so rainy this week in Manitoba, so getting outside is more difficult, and I had to plan my runs around it. Okay. Totally get that too. When we hit that kind of rainy season or when we are in not so great weather, starting to find ways to include more activity that might not be what we normally do could be a good way to do this. So maybe that means, taking the stairs at work or taking, parking further out in a parking lot. I know it's rainy, so it's not the best thing to be walking outside when it's cold and wet and crappy. But just finding ways to increase daily movement rather than it being your specific runs might be a good way to try and kind of work around that. I mean, other options are obviously if you have access to a gym or somewhere that has a treadmill or a bike or something like that, being able to use items like that. I know it's not as much fun when you're indoors, but that's always an option too.
And being that you're saying running, I'm going to guess it's cardiovascular training that's important to you in your training routine right now. And so with that said, you could also look at doing some form of HIIT movements or something like that at home where you're doing the
burpees for days.
You're doing cardio on the spot at home versus having to get out in the rain. And I agree, when it's rainy, it's not as fun. I don't even like to drive to the gym in the rain. So I do.
Kayla's like a cat. You can't get her wet.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Jess. Okay, so Julia says, Rose, nutrition and resisting all the sugary snacks available at work. Bud did not prep enough food for my entire work week, but still making good choices. I love that.
Awesome.
Thorn, strength training, movement challenges, especially in my house and at work. I love going to spin classes and going out for walks, but my home is my place of rest and work is work. I know I could change this mindset though. So maybe there's a gym membership looking at, or a multi-purpose room at work so you can keep work at work.
Yeah. So I don't know what you do for work, Julia, but there are things that, we've worked with some pretty busy business people before. And I mean, if it's as simple as starting to do desk squats or things like that, where we're just beside our desk and able to get a little bit of movement in, we could definitely look at ideas like that. I totally get that home is your place of rest. It is the same for us. Now, the other portion of this is when we say yes to something, right? If we're in a challenge like this and we've said, yes, we're going to commit to this for the next 8 weeks, maybe we start to find that piece of compromise around, well, yes, home is for rest. This is where I rest. This is where I rejuvenate and recover and all the fun things. But maybe we start to look at, a room in our home as something that we are willing to commit to for the next 8 weeks. And it doesn't have to be crazy. You don't have to go buy all the weights in the world or do anything like that. But creating that space for yourself for this small window and maybe shifting the mindset around that. And I love that you did put this at the end there, that I know I could change the mindset with this too, because it really is the mindset that has to come first so that we can create those small changes. So maybe if we can commit again to, maybe one of the rooms in our house could be somewhere that we could do a workout. That might be a good compromise.
I was thinking boundaries when I heard my room is my house is my place of rest. I was thinking maybe like time boundaries, meaning like I need rest after work and I'm not willing to compromise coming home from work and then working out. So maybe my time boundary is I'm going to get up and try my movement before work so that I get my exercise in. This is where when I'm setting that time there to do that, so that when I come home, it is about rest and rejuvenation. So it could just be that you set specific times and the workouts must take place in those times and outside of that, that's that recovery phase.
And there is the other portion of this that I want to touch on too. And sometimes in our journey, maybe we're not quite at the point where strength training is what we want to put our focus into, and that's okay too, right? So yes, there's workouts in this challenge. Yes, we love seeing the workouts come in by all means. But if we are not at a point in our journey where we have the time, the ability, or the space to create that space for strength training, maybe we're starting with the cardiovascular side of the world. Maybe it is the spin classes, and maybe it's increasing daily movement rather than specific workouts, right? And that's okay too. And that's a conversation that you can have with us and say, hey, I'm not feeling the strength training stuff right now. And you'll never get it from us saying, oh, bad, you got to do it. It's just finding what works for you, your lifestyle, and where you're at and your goals right now. So I love that you have that in there, and honestly, I love that it is a thorn, because it's either A, something that we're willing to put the time and effort into to work around and find what does work for you, or B, maybe we were looking at it as, I'm not at the strength training portion yet, but I absolutely love the cardiovascular side of the world. So maybe we just look at increasing daily movement.
100%. 100%. I love that. Okay. Moving on.
All right, so Kathleen's this week is, Rose, I'm eating better. I've eaten for breakfast. I think I'm doing better at eating. That's awesome. I love eating also, and eating excellently. But I'm going to check out a gym and hopefully have a better routine of working out. That's awesome. Love hearing that.
Love that. That's great.
And Thorn, I'm having issues because I'm in pain all the time. It's really hard for me to get moving into exercise or even thinking about it because I hurt all the time.
So I guess my thing with that is, if you hurt all the time anyways, does the pain increase when I add movement? And so that's that piece of, if yes, maybe we just start with like very light, gentle movements, like yoga. If the pain is the same, regardless of whether I'm, doing movement or not, you might notice that over time doing the movement, the pain starts to dissipate. I would like to know what the pain is being caused by, because is this like an injury, or is this undescribable pain and we don't know what it's being caused by? So I do have a lot of questions around that. So Kathleen, if you watch this video or listen to this recording, please reach out to us in regards to this, and maybe we can have a greater conversation about it.
Yeah, 100%. That's what I was going to say, is when we look at pain in the body, is it a chronic pain? Is it something we've been dealing with for a while? Is this an old injury that's flaring back up? There's a ton of questions that can be asked here, and trust me, there's a million workarounds and ways that we can help your body feel more comfortable in those movements. But without the extra knowledge, we're not going to be able to just throw a general one at you. So definitely reach out.
I can definitely say that there is a difference between good pain and bad pain. When I was after my car accident and I first started exercising, I was in a lot of pain. But what I noticed is over time that pain began to change, and it wasn't the same kind of pain that I needed to take medicine to make that pain go away. It started to become muscle pain, where like the muscles were sore from me working them, and I wasn't feeling the aches and pains in my body as much anymore. And so sometimes there's that barrier where we push a little bit past that pain threshold and the pain begins to change and transfer. And sometimes it's not good to do that. So really looking at what's being caused by, and is it good pain versus bad pain versus what am I willing to push?
Nope, love it.
Okay, I got it. Yeah, I thought you were going to say. Cindy says her Rose just getting more movement has been working and getting workouts in and at the gym, but
the at-home workouts, I struggle with it as I'm not motivated at home. Get that.
But it sounds like they're coming along, so you're doing something.
Yeah. And Thorn this week is the meal prep. I'm hoping to get a handle of it this upcoming week. Now, I want to throw this out there because I've had a couple messages this week that come in about meal prep, and it's like, I essentially get paralysis, right? You think you got to come up with all these intricate, amazing meals, mix them, have everything ready. So it's just like a heat and eat kind of thing, which is one way to do meal prep. Now, what I want to say today is when we're talking about meal prep, when I'm talking about meal prep specifically, I don't mean prepping the full meals. I don't mean you have to have your Alfredo sauce with the chicken and the noodles or whatever, like everything all mixed together. When I talk meal prep, typically, I'm talking about cooking a batch cooking of a protein, of carbohydrates, and then typically leaving the vegetables in the sauce for day of. so that we have the things that usually take longest to cook, which are your carbohydrates and your proteins, ready to just be heated and eat. But then the vegetables and the sauces that you're going to put on the meals we cook day of, because those are typically the faster items. And then we get more variety in, because a lot of people get paralyzed with, well, I don't want to make one meal and just be stuck with that same flavor profile for the next 7 days or whatever it is. So that's why I always say, if we just cook the two big items and then we can mix whatever veg in and whatever sauces or spices or whatever we want day of, we can create a variety of meals instead of it just being one single meal. So when I talk meal prep, I say let's prep the big items separately. Let's store them and then we can use them.
Yeah, and I know that Cindy had previously had that question about picky eaters, and I gave a bunch of resources on how to begin to introduce foods to picky eaters and those kinds of things. But one of the things I wanted to mention with what Mike's saying with if you're prepping like large amounts of the protein and large amounts of the carbohydrates is that it's the picky eaters usually have more of a problem with the vegetables component or a texture component or the flavoring. So if you leave it plain, they can kind of flavor it their own way. I know like for us, like we only have one kid that really likes spicy food, but we love spicy food. So we often will make like a red Thai curry sauce that we put on ours after. And then my kids like drizzle honey or ketchup on their food. And it is what it is until their taste buds begin to change and evolve over time.
Yeah, love it.
Michelle says her rose still working at keeping my calories up, and
You've been doing an awesome
she's
job.
crushing it. We know this. Bud, meal preps with my friends are we are doing pretty good at it. I love that you're creating community around the meal prep idea, and that is a really nice thing too. If you want to have that time with your friends, maybe you do prep your meals together. Thorn, right now my dad's accident is scary and has my emotions up and down and all around. But I'm really trying hard to be the tough one for him. And
Yeah, so
our hearts go out to you, Michelle.
100%. So this is general community stuff here. When we have a community member who has something serious going on in their life, by all means, thoughts and prayers going out to that person. So anybody that's watching or listening to this video, if you want to send some love and thoughts out to Michelle and her dad, that'd be greatly appreciated, because again, we are that community and we want to be able to support. So I know what you're going through, and I hope it all comes around. All right. Willow says her rose get a lot of walking in this week. Woo! Awesome.
He has a walking buddy now.
Yeah. Awesome. Bud is more aware of what's going on in my body, and that's a huge step forward. Awesome. That awareness. I love it.
Body awareness is huge.
Yeah, 100%. Have you ever felt like you're just living in your body, but you don't actually reside in there, right?
Yeah.
Like that body awareness is amazing. Okay. Thorn, I'm tired. This week was a struggle to get through it, and my schedule was thrown off. Okay, so was the schedule thrown off because we're tired, or did new things get added to the schedule, which is creating that lack of energy? So a question around that, but when we're looking at being tired, especially if it's a scheduling thing, seeing where we can start to take some of our time back and, kind of listing the things that we've said yes to, and maybe if we've overcommitted, starting to look at the things that we can release for that week, just to give ourselves a little bit of space to breathe, can be important.
100%. The one thing I do know with Willow, and Willow, you're more than welcome to correct me if I'm incorrect here, is that sometimes one event throws off your entire week. That one thing that took place, it kind of just begins to snowball from there. And sometimes when we follow a routine for one moment, one day, whatever that looks like, it's really hard to sometimes feel like we get back on track. I know that one of the things that might have thrown you off was that there was that unexpected or unplanned, maybe kids home from school day off, because I know we were talking and she said, oh, my kids had yesterday off school. And I was like, my kids were at school, or at least they were not at home. So I don't know.
They were somewhere.
They were hopefully at school. So I know that we had that conversation earlier in the week, and she was like, oh, it just totally threw me off with them at home. So I'm assuming that this is what it's in relation to, and I could be totally wrong. But yeah, when we kind of get that schedule thrown off, it is hard to sometimes get back on track. And just maybe allowing yourself that each day is a new day and wiping that slate clean from the day previous.
Love it. Jamie's Rose, this week in a Been a bit off for me in all areas. I guess my food has been going good, but not near enough per day. Okay. Bud, workouts are decent, but a slow start. Didn't get my Tuesday spin, but did do a full workout at home. Well, that's awesome. I love the compromise there. Maybe I didn't get to do the one thing that I had planned, but I made up for it and still got movement in. That's awesome. Thorn is getting my 10,000 plus step goal in per day. The cold and snow and rain has made me want to stay inside, and my tread climber has crapped out. Okay. Again, this is very similar to what we had talked about with, I believe it was Jessica,
Running.
with the running and the outside. So, I love that you have the 10,000 step goal for every day. That's great, right? Now, you said the cold and rain has made you want to stay inside instead of going out. So, again, totally get that. Now, there are indoor options like spin, no, but starting to utilize what we have available to you. So, I know that your tread climber, like you said, isn't exactly doing what you want it to do right now. I happen to know that you have a spin bike at home too, though. So, starting to see where we can make compromises for the movement. I absolutely love, actually, Jamie, that, you said Tuesday spin didn't get to happen, but you got a full workout at home. Absolutely love that. So, starting to see where we can increase movement on the days where we don't get to be as active in the ways that we normally are or that we enjoy being, is creating that space for the progression that you're making in your life. So, I love that you did make that kind of switch on Tuesday. And then I guess my challenge to you would be on the days where we are coming in a little bit lower for steps than you'd like to be. What can we do inside the house to increase general movement, right? Do you have a staircase? Can we do some frog hops across your basement floor? Can we run up and down the stairs a few times? Like, just seeing where we can add more movement in, even when the days are cold, or making plans to go out and maybe meet up with a friend and just go for a walk around the track at the Tri Leisure.
Okay. Well, I got an idea here. So usually the 10,000 steps is in relation to I want to have a certain amount of calorie burn in the day. That's the normal reason why people are looking for that 10,000 steps. If that is the case, and I want a certain amount of calorie burn in the day, then doing some form of strength training is going to burn calories for 24 to 48 hours after you do it. When you do cardio, you are literally burning calories for the period of time that you do cardiovascular training.
Mhm.
When we look at the leading indicator of weight loss, it is something it's something called NEAT, or non-exercise active thermogenesis. And what that means is the things that lend way to your weight loss are the things that you don't think about. How often you fidget? Do you
How do you
talk with
talk
your
with your
hands?
hands? Yeah.
Are you animated? Do you blink a lot? Do you breathe a lot? Like, there's so many other factors that go into the calorie burn. So I love the idea of focusing on steps because it encourages you to get more movement
Mhm.
in your day. But if the reason for getting that movement in is for general health, then great, by all means, keep trying to push for that. If the reason is because I just want to burn more calories through the day, then there are other options to be able to get there. And maybe something like yoga, where we're burning 100 calories in the hour, maybe that's a really good place to start, because maybe that's really similar to the step count that I'm getting. You know what I'm saying? So there's lots of other things that we can do to begin to create those deficits if that is what we are trying to do. But please reach out if you guys have questions on that. There's two of them.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right. So Jen's Rose is movement, exercise classes, spin, cardio, and yoga this week. Holy, sounds like a busy week. I love it. Bud, mostly pre-planned meal choices. So it sounds like the meal prep's coming along. So awesome job there, Jen. And then Thorn is scheduling, being accountable for all the programs I'm running for myself and her family.
Yeah, I agree. Scheduling is tough, especially when you've got a family involved. We use Google Calendar.
And we have a calendar in the fridge, and we have our
We have day timers.
day timers.
So our day timers are for ourselves. The Google Calendar is so that we can see where our schedules overlap.
So we don't overlap too much.
And sometimes, if there's like a kids activity that one of us needs to take somebody to, I put an hour reminder.
She puts it in mind because she knows that I'll forget otherwise.
Yeah. And then the calendar on the fridge is for the kids, so that they can see what's coming up and what they need to get ready for the day.
Yeah, so the reason we like the way that we kind of do this is the schedule on the fridge gives everybody in the family something to refer to for what the kids have going on, right? So this gives us a very kind of basic quick look. You get them on Amazon, they're those big fridge calendars, and that shows the kids and the husbands of the world what's going on, because otherwise we're clueless. And then the schedulers are for, again, yourself, and then Google Calendar is great if you are sharing scheduling with your significant other, just so then you can make sure that everybody's on the same page and we get notifications.
I like the reminders because I can set it for like an hour or so before, and it will remind me, hey, by the way, in an hour you got to take somebody somewhere and do something.
Yeah, but I 100% I agree. Scheduling is one of those things where it's like it is a constant battle, right? Trying to balance everything and make sure that we make all our appointments and everything that we have scheduled for the kids. It really is a juggling act. So trying to create the simplest version of it that you can. And again, for us, that's how we do it. I mean, it might not be the most simple, but it shows the kids what's coming up, and it also lends way for us to know what's happening each day as well.
100%. Gani says her Rose is food prep, Bud is getting more movement, and Thorn time, always time. I agree, but time is hard, but I think it also comes back to our focus. If I place my focus on I don't have enough time, then my life will constantly show me all of the areas where I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time to eat. I don't have enough time to go do groceries, whatever it is. If I focus my efforts on time is abundant, my reticular activating system in my brain will begin to look for ways in which I can create more space and time in my life. And I say this because Mike and I were in training, was it 2 weeks ago now? 2 weeks ago. And everybody was talking about how no one has enough time. And it felt like that weekend, time was so abundant. Like we had so much to do, and we kept finding ourselves with this extra abundance of time. It was like we were moving faster through time, and there was just so much leftover time. And so I think sometimes it's that I need to step back from the story that I'm telling myself to begin to see space where I can open things up. And allow things to be. I agree. There are days where time just seems to slip away and you're like, where did I ever get things done? Those days are for sure there. But I think that sometimes we need to also step outside of that and go, where can I create more time? What are my time wasters? Or, what do I need more time for? What would you do with your extra time? If I gave you more time, what would you do with it? Because I can tell you right now, I work very well under pressure. If I have an hour to do something, I will get that something and maybe more done within that hour. If I have 3 hours to do that same thing, you better believe me, it's going to take me 3 hours to do that. It's a true story. I really realized I've had an open.
You can get it done in an hour, or it can take her 2 weeks.
Yeah, but it depends on how much time I have.
Yeah.
So I feel like sometimes we create that as well.
100%. And time is that fun thing where if we really want to put our focus into what our days look like and where we could get some time back, I strongly recommend doing a time inventory on your days and seeing, honestly, writing down every half hour what you're doing on the half hour for an entire 24 hours. Well, obviously when you're sleeping, just let it go, sleep. But seeing where we could get some time back, because the first time I did this, I was like, well, I'm actually really efficient with my time, and I just don't know where I could get more hours in the day. And then I did a time inventory and I was like, okay, well, I actually wasted time from here to here because I was just scrolling social media or doing something, getting ready to post or whatever it was. And then there was a couple leeches within my days where I was like, okay, I could actually get this time back. So we do actually have a resource for time tracking. So if anybody's listening to this and you're like, hey, I would love to do a time inventory, reach out to us and we will get you a PDF version of our time inventory tracking so that you guys can see what your days actually look like.
Also, your phone. should have a well-being app of sorts on there, and it will track how much time you spend on what apps through your day. So if you are really curious where you might be wasting time, might be a good idea to open that up and see which apps you spend the most time on and how much time you're spending on average each day in those apps.
Give you a hint, delete TikTok now. No.
No, but it's like, it's for real. Like, I don't think I go on social media that much. And then when I look at it, I'm like, oh, apparently I do. So again, coming back to the stories we tell ourselves, or the vision of our own reality, right?
Yeah, love it.
Okay, Bonnie says her rows my bench press at 65 pounds. Boop, boop. Bud, the Romanian lunges are working well. Yeah, she's touching her
Gotta
knee
love
all the way
deficit
down.
lunges.
Yeah. Thorn, the seated shoulder press can be challenging. I agree.
100% it can. So seated shoulder presses are one of those really fun exercises because we get medial and anterior delts when we're pushing up, and then we get our medial and our posterior delts when we're actually bringing it back down. So it's one of those fun exercises that absolutely burns the entire shoulder.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I can say for a seated shoulder press is making sure we keep the chest elevated so that we get the most push out of the anterior and the medial.
I
Because
know.
when we roll forward, then we're just pushing out of medials and it gets real hard real fast.
I know why she's saying it's her thorn, because we took it from standing to seated. And so
taking any chance of momentum.
no momentum, no back muscles to support. So it is definitely a challenge.
It's a beating. Yep.
Yeah. Shania says her rows adding more whole foods to my diet. I love that. Congratulations, Bud, meal prepping, and Thorn finding the energy to get things done since I'm sick. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when the body says recover.
Yeah. So and this is something I know, Shania, you're new to our style of training. And I don't know if you've ever heard this from any coaches before, but if you are feeling under the weather, please take the time to recover. Because again, if we are just trying to push through our sickness and just continue working out, continue doing all the things, we're just going to drive our immune system even lower. So when our body needs rest, I strongly suggest to everybody to get that rest, allow your body to get the recovery that it needs, and then we can push hard once we're feeling better again. Now, that doesn't mean to completely stop doing absolutely everything. Obviously, still eat all the whole foods that it sounds like you're already doing. Maybe we can do some light movement and things like that, where it's just walking or just general movement. But until those energy levels start to come up, until we start to actually feel like we're rounding the corner on that sickness or ahead of the curve, then we can, then we can really start to focus on that more energy demanding movement stuff again.
100%. And there is in your resources, there's information on exercise when sick. And one of the things is like, how sick are you? Do you have a little bit of a cold and a little bit of a sniffle? You're probably still good to do your regular exercise. Are you puking, or can you barely get off the couch? Do you have a fever? Probably better to stay home and rest.
Yeah.
And listening to that. And if you guys are wondering why I smiled when Mike said ahead of the curve, is because my whole life I thought that the saying was ahead of the curb, and I thought that made sense. Like you'd be on the road. Anyways,
there are many euphemisms that Kayla has messed up over the years, and I just love pointing them out. They're always fun.
I have my own, and they make sense in my brain. So ahead of the curb.
Don't go Jason Waterfalls.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, Emily says Rose continuing to do well, getting out for at least one walk a day. I love that. Good job.
Yeah.
Bud slowly improving with my workouts. Amazing. Thorn, stress caused by outside sources, uncontrollable ones.
Okay. So stress, especially, like I love that you actually put the caveat in there that these are uncontrollable. It's stress that we don't have any physical control over, nothing that we can actually affect ourselves. So we do this little thing called a circle of control. And we start to look at all of the things in our lives that we put our energy and our focus into that we actually have the ability to have some resemblance of control, something that we can actually impact by our direct actions, right? So these are things that are worth putting our energy into. If we can actually impact the situation to create a different outcome, then this is a stress that I welcome, because I can actually impact it. Now, when we're looking at things that we literally have no control over, starting to release some of the some of the things that cause us stress out of it can actually be really beneficial. It's like I always use the example of like the federal government. They are doing whatever the hell they want to do. I can't control that. So me sitting here in a state of stress over what I have literally no control over, it's like going on a rocking chair. It's giving you something to do, but you're not getting anywhere, right? So I like to use that example because when we put our focus and our energy into things that we have no control over, it really just creates more and more stress in our lives because we physically can't make any change. We feel stuck in that situation, but again, we can't impact it. So starting to look at if this uncontrollable stress is something that is worth us putting our energy and our focus into, because again, we can't change the impact. We can't create a different outcome from any action that we would take on it. So if that's where we're putting our energy and our focus, then it's going to keep us in that repetitive loop of stress because again, we can't impact it, right?
Yeah.
So, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say boundaries are really important. So like you said, federal government, I think of COVID, and when we were so stressed and worried about everything. And my boundary was I needed to just turn off the news. I needed to stop paying attention to those things. And when I shrunk my world so that I wasn't paying attention, and when maybe I put on a little bit of blinders, whatever you can call it, but when I shrunk my world in, all of those things didn't feel so heavy. And, I just was like, hey, my life is going to be what my life is going to be. I'm surrendering to this. And within my boundary is I'm not going to watch the news. I'm not going to pay attention to it because it's outside of my control. So for you, maybe it's looking at where can I place boundaries in my life that allow me to still feel safe? Because the biggest thing with stress, especially stress that is uncontrollable, is that I feel that my safety is jeopardized and then it causes worry and anxiety within that. So is there a way that I can come back to my safety? Is there a way that I can come back to feeling better within myself? And if that is the case, then maybe taking those actions to move forward to reduce the stress versus it being like this worry and angst and overwhelmed feeling.
Yeah. And then the other portion of that is what do we have as a tool in our toolbox to deal with stress, right? So in the moment, we can use our breath, we can use some mindfulness, we can use our five senses. There's lots of little ways that we can start to bring ourselves back from a stressful event. The most powerful and the most readily available for absolutely everybody is our breath, and making sure when we feel stressed that we're just breathing in and out through our nose. As soon as we start breathing out through our mouth, we are signaling our brain that we are in a sympathetic state. We are in a state of holy shit, what's about to happen? Because when we're offloading CO2, our body sees that as an immediate stressor. So if we can offload CO2 slower through our nose, it increases CO2 tolerance. It tells our brain on our chemoreceptors that we are actually in a parasympathetic state where we're in that rest and digest, where we can actually relax. So focusing on a nice slow cadenced in and out breath through your nose is a great way to help deal with that stress in the moment.
And we have a whole podcast episode called I'm okay, you're okay, we're okay, I believe. And it's all about stress and tools to deal with stress. And we even talk about nose boners. So if you want to know more about nose boners, please
reach out. We can send you a link to that one. Freaking nose boners. Okay. Next is Chantel. Chantel says her Rose is getting in an additional walk every day. Yay, bonus walk. Love it. Bud is meal planning and prepping. Absolutely love that. And Thorn, finding my ideal workout time.
Oh, there's no ideal. Let's be honest. Whatever is going to work in your schedule may not be ideal. Okay. I don't love getting up at 5:30 in the morning to work out. Ideally, I would be like a 10 a.m. workouter, but I know in my schedule that doesn't work. So what do? I get up at 5:30. I take my pre-workout so that it cues the brain that we can do this. And we move through it. So for yourself, it's where is it ideally fit in within my schedule, not ideally fit within like, what do I want, right? We get trapped in the what do I want versus what works.
And especially, and I just want to throw this out there is I don't know the entire journey that you're on here, Chantel, but when we start to look at, especially if it's the start of a fitness journey, realizing that it doesn't have to be perfect, right? It doesn't have to be the exact same time every day. This is when I go for my workout. And just accepting that, especially near the start of a journey, we can be a bit more fluid with our scheduling. And again, like Kayla was saying, kind of find the gaps and where we could find and fit in these workouts throughout your week. And again, doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be pretty. You don't even have to do the entire workout in one sitting. If you have 20 minutes in the morning, you have 20 minutes at night, and then you got another 20 minutes after the kids go to bed, splitting those sets out so that you can do like one round of all the sets in the morning, one round after work, one round after the kids go to bed is a great way to do it too. There's nothing that's like hard and fast and says you have to finish this workout all at once.
Yeah.
So just creating that space for yourself, being a bit more fluid with the schedule, and just kind of fitting in when and where we can.
And being upfront with yourself. How many workouts do I want to get in versus how many workouts fit in my schedule, right? Like often we get people that come to us and go, I want 5 days of exercise. And I'm like, how many do you do right now? They're like 0. I'm like, awesome, let's start with 2 or 3, because if you're going from 0 to 5, that's a huge jump, whereas 0 to 2 or 3 feels a little bit more manageable. We also have people that work shift work where they're on for 10 days and then they're off for, 5 or 7 days. And well, how do I get my workouts in on those days? So it's kind of mind blowing. Most people don't think that they can do their workouts on a weekend. It's like my workouts can only be done Monday through Friday or on work days. There's other days. It doesn't have to be done on one specific day. So if we've scheduled a workout for you in a program of any kind, there's nothing that says in cement that says you must do your workout on this specific day. Like wherever it works for you in your week, move it to where it feels good to you. There's nothing that says it has to be done on that day. We get lots of people who are like, I'm playing catch up with my workouts. I'm like, or you're just getting them done when it works for you.
100%. Fluid with your schedule. You got this. All right. Kyla says her Rose is feeling great, no longer needing lunchtime naps. Woo!
That's amazing.
Absolutely love that. Her bud is increasing movement. That's great. And Thorn is water intake. I've been a bit low the last couple of days. Ooh.
Ways to increase water. Okay. So do you flavor your water? Because for most people, if the water tastes good, you're more likely to drink it. So I don't like room temperature water. I prefer cold water. And
She's a water snob.
I am a water snob.
Water snob, coffee snob, just a snob.
That's not nice. Don't say that because I have a resting bitch face and people think that I'm mean to begin with. I'm not mean.
She's really nice. She just looks like she'll kick your ass. No.
Okay. But flavoring water is really important. I like cold water. Maybe it doesn't have to be water. Maybe it's herbal tea or regular tea. Like your water intake, coffee fits into that. Your diet pop fits into that. Your regular pop, unfortunately, also still fits into that. Maybe not into your calorie consumption, but your bubbly water fits into that. Like there's so your liquids, right? Did you have did you have a glass of milk? Did you have something else? Like there's liquid in general fits into that. And so we want to aim for about 2 liters of water, and that being like kind of the gold standard, that minimum. I say for females, 2 to 2.5, 2.75 liters. For males, you want that 3 to 3.5, 3.75 liters. They need a little bit more water than
you need all the water.
Yeah.
The other portion of this too, because I've had this conversation with quite a few clients, is sometimes it's not specifically that they don't want to drink the water because they don't like it, the flavor or anything like that. Sometimes it's literally just that we don't think to drink the water. So I want to toss this out there, starting to pair water with things that you already do naturally. Okay. So creating the most sustainable habits that you can in your life means that you're pairing the new habit with something you're already doing. That is where we get the highest rate of success. In fact, it goes up to about 80% for most people if we're pairing it with something we're successfully doing already. Mm-hmm. So if you eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, if you commit to having a glass of water, fresh glass, and drink the entire thing with breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that's 1.5 liters right there. If we're talking like...
Yeah, if we're talking one of these is more than a cup. One of these is about 1.5 cups.
One of these is about
2.5
two,
cups.
2.5 cups. So all I'm saying is if we start pairing the water with the things we're already doing, maybe it's when you brush your teeth in the morning. Maybe it's when you brush your teeth at night. Maybe it's just simply waking up for the day, when you're making the kids lunches, when you're doing something that you're guaranteed to be doing every single day. And then we start to pair, I'm going to have a glass of water while I do this. It increases the chances of us sticking with this new habit. So, my biggest hack for anybody when we're talking a new habit that we are looking to integrate is pairing it with something we are already successful with. Because if we are already successful with habit A and then we add B to it, the chances of us doing habit B all of the time goes up by 80%.
So I have a client and she doesn't consistently eat, meaning sometimes she eats breakfast and sometimes she doesn't. And so we were looking at just increasing water intake, and she started pairing it with going to the bathroom because everybody goes to the bathroom. And like, that wasn't even my idea. It was her idea. And because I would never have thought of that because I don't associate water with going to the bathroom. I don't know why. But anyways, so I know, so weird. But anyways, so she came up with this idea and like it worked.
Yeah.
Every time she went to the bathroom, she had a glass of water. In fact, like she was crushing her water intake, and then it was obviously making her need to go to the bathroom more. So then she was drinking more water. So maybe that's something you do, because at this stage in your life, I'm hoping you guys aren't wetting your pants anymore. If you are, I might need to look into that. But maybe that's something that you do. I didn't mean to say that, but now it's funny.
She meant to say that.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, sure. You do.
Maybe if it's something that you already do,
There you go.
then yeah, try and pair your water with it.
Okay.
Becca says,
Her name is Rebecca. Rebecca says,
I know her as Becca. Rose, have more spare time, bud. My feet feeling a little bit better, so my activities are up. Love that. Thorn, lunches. I want to have a decently healthy lunch, but I struggle with it. Have been reaching for too many carbs. So I'd like to know what you normally have for lunch, but I'm going to pretend it's a sandwich and chips because that's what a lot of carbs means to me, and that's what Mike used to eat growing up. So if you're having a sandwich and chips, maybe you decide to have a wrap and chips, because it's too hard to move from to an extreme, right? I can't go from sandwich and chips to sandwich and veggie sticks, because that's a big jump, or with a salad is also a big jump. Maybe I have a wrap. Maybe it's a lettuce wrap. Maybe, because a wrap isn't necessarily better for you than bread is. We're still talking simple carbohydrates and refined carbs and all of those kinds of things. So maybe it's a lettuce wrap with my chips. Maybe I decide that I want to have like a rice bowl. Like, we love rice bowls. So because we prep our chicken and our rice in large batches, so that I can just grab some salad mix and put my lettuce and chicken in there, and I can add different flavorings to it. That's an easy way for you to go. I do know in our resources, there's 30 gram of protein ideas for lunches. So maybe take a look at those resources and see if there's something in there. But I'd like to know, I need more detail on what you eat for lunch.
yeah. And the other portion of this that I wanted to just touch on, again, without knowing what lunches are, obviously we can't give that great of detail of ideas here, but leftovers are a lunch's best friend.
They're easy.
So I love them because they're easy. I love them because you can preheat them, right? So if you have, like, for me, when I used to work away from home, I would get my thermos. I had like a regular size thermos, and I would boil water, put the water in, close it, heat up my food in my toaster oven, and then pour the water out of said thermos and put the hot food right in it. It would stay hot until I would eat my lunch at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So having yourself set up for success, especially when we're talking about leftovers for lunches, is a way that you can guarantee a hot meal when you are out and about. And that makes a world of difference, because nobody wants to eat a cold meal, and you can't guarantee if you're out at work that you can always get to a microwave or whatever else, or another oven to be able to heat your food up. So it's always a great option to just have a preheated meal in a thermos that you can just eat.
Yeah. And there's lots of people that we've been getting lots of messages about, oh, I don't like leftovers. Leftovers aren't my thing. I don't know what you think a meal prep business is, but you are eating leftovers because they've already been cooked and then put to the side. But anyways,
Just spoiled that. Damn it.
I know. I just don't understand the no leftover thing. I mean, I love leftovers, but if you cook the shit out of your food and then you try and reheat it for leftovers, it's mushy and gross. I get that.
Of course, like chewing rubber.
Yeah. So maybe that's why you don't like leftovers. If you guys want more ideas on making leftovers easier, please let me know. And we can kind of steer you guys in a good direction.
Okay, Michelle says her Rose is back on track with exercise and nutrition. Awesome job. But is not giving up just because I slacked for a few days. 100%, right? Pick ourselves up, dust off, right back into it. Love it.
Wipe that slate clean.
Thorn is meal prepping. I would pay to have a meal prep night. Hint, hint.
I love it. If I had access to a stove, like
somebody find us a commercial kitchen. We will run one because we
100%.
used to run a meal prep company, and we are going to be having a meal prep company out of our new space. So maybe it's just a service.
Yeah. 100%. I love the idea of a meal prep night. And you know what, Michelle, we were already mentioning like get together with friends. I have a really good, if you get onto my Pinterest, there's like a bunch of recipe ideas for crock pot meals, and you would just prep them with your friends into like freezer bags, and you throw them in your freezer so that when you're ready, you just dump it in the crock pot. So maybe that's an idea too.
Yeah, bag ones.
Yeah. Melissa says, Rose, surprisingly, my diet since making the switch to healthy real foods, my cravings have all but disappeared, and I just feel better in general. You are what you eat.
100%.
Yes. But I'm starting to feel those hunger pains again and am falling into a more regular pattern of fueling my body throughout the day. I love that. When hunger cues come back online, we know that we're doing something right.
And as uncomfortable as hunger cues can be, if we are on any kind of a weight loss journey, hunger cues mean it's working.
Yeah, 100%.
So
love that.
As I always say, as shitty as it is, we got to find that comfort and discomfort knowing that what we're doing is working. So keep it up. Awesome job.
Thorn, my brain, it seems to be so quick to come up with excuses like I'm too tired today, I should rest. But when I actually assess how the rest of my body feels, I feel fine and actually totally capable of getting a workout in. Finding the balance between what my brain is telling me and what my body is telling me has been a struggle, but I am just trying to get more in tune with how I feel as a whole and go from there. I freaking love this. Yeah. Like, we have an episode of our podcast called The Power of the Mind. I think it's like episode like 2 or 3. It's like right near the beginning. Yeah. But your brain is meant to keep you safe. Like it's meant to stop you from changing because the idea of change is that you might die.
It's unknown.
Right? Like there's always that worry, like if I make this switch, what if I die? So the brain is meant to keep you safe and comfortable because right now I'm not dead and I'm still alive and
your brain knows that it can keep doing the exact same thing it's doing and you'll be alive.
Exactly. So it is trying to stop us from changing. That's okay. That's a safety mechanism, right? It's kind of like your life vest. You don't have to put it on. It's just going to be there to remind you just in case. So continuously showing the brain that I am okay. I can do this. I can get up and get moving, and I actually feel better because of it. It kind of begins to remove those limiting beliefs. I can't tell you that there's going to be a day where you don't have an excuse because I don't know that that day will ever come, but it's that my dedication and my consistency are far greater than my excuses. Let's be honest. The chances of most of us getting into what we call overtraining are very small. We often think we need more rest than our body actually needs. Yes, recovery is important, but the chances of overtraining are like more in the athlete realm. So if I, like, for example, me, if I do 3 weight training exercises, like in a 3-day period, back to back to back, that's okay, even if they're similar muscle groups. Yes, my muscles need time and recovery depending on my goals and specifics. But if that's when I can allot the time, it's better to do it than not do it at all. Do you have anything more to add to that?
Not at all. Love it.
Perfectly said. High five. Sometimes nice to give a high five.
Bringing back the 90s, high fives and fist pumps. Okay. All right. Rosalie says her rose is I made it through my first session coaching. Started the season off and juggling my workouts to fit the schedule adjustment. Awesome. Bud is the inchworm. When I first saw this exercise, I thought, hell no. Then I did it and a few more. Awesome job.
Love that.
I love where you get to overcome that. And Thorn is eating real food all the time. Okay, so this is that piece I want to say one more time, saying it for everybody in the back row too. Perfection doesn't come overnight, and perfection isn't something that we should ever strive for. Um, Eating real food all the time is a beautiful thing. Don't get me wrong. I believe that everybody, health indicators, markers go way up when we are eating real foods, whole foods, healthy foods. Now, eating it all the time, is it realistic? Right? Looking at where, and I just mean it as in looking at where we started before this program started, before we started this new journey. Were we eating real food, healthy food, whole foods all the time? Probably not. So is it realistic to go from where we were to the perfect diet within a short span of time? It's not overly realistic. Right. So this is where we start to take into account the changes we are making. So maybe instead of eating chicken strips and, hot dogs or things like that, maybe we're just switching to chicken breasts, and maybe we're changing to ground beef or meatballs or whatever we make, things like that, where it is that more of a whole food option, and not getting hung up and so laser focused on everything has to be perfect all the time. So allowing ourselves the grace that, we are making these changes, celebrating the changes we are making, and then just keeping consistent at what we're willing to do at this stage in our change.
Well, and I think a piece of this needs to be, what is the lifestyle that I want to maintain?
Mhm.
So we talk a lot about cultivating your life or creating the life and the lifestyle that you want. Is it realistic for your life and your lifestyle to eat nothing but whole foods? In my ideal scenario, yes, but I live a busy life, and sometimes it's easier to buy the prepackaged stuff. Now, we look at the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, am I eating whole foods? Hell yeah, I am. 20% of the time, maybe I'm not. So starting to look at that for yourself as well is, am I doing the right things as I progress forward? And what is the lifestyle that I want to maintain? Because do I ever see myself never consuming a chip again in my life, or never consuming a chocolate chip cookie? Probably not. That is not the lifestyle I want to maintain, right? There are people in this world that do maintain that lifestyle, and that's great for them. But that's not my lifestyle that I like, because I like those things. So am I willing to have them in moderation, in smaller doses, as more of a celebratory thing, versus it being an everyday thing?
Yeah.
And that's all we're asking.
And again, putting our focus into the changes that we are making, right? Because again, when we get that myopic view on, I'm not going to be happy until it's perfect, I'm not going to be happy until I've done all of the work, we miss out on celebrating all the small victories on the way. So let's celebrate the small victories you're already making. Let's celebrate the whole foods that you are eating and how much better they make our body feel. And over time, those changes start to really set in.
And your taste buds begin to change too, and shift you to more whole foods.
100%.
Tara says, Rose, meal prep and food, Bud getting back to routine, but a bit sidetracked with the kiddos being sick. That's a tough one.
Yeah,
but
get that.
Finding a routine is best. Thorn, getting that movement in. Seems if I'm on vacation, no problem, but add in responsibilities and business, and it's all gone to hell for me. I think that maybe you just need to do a time inventory. When in your day works, and can you schedule it in so it becomes non-negotiable? The other piece of this is, why is the movement so important to you? So what is your goal around movement, and how does movement help you in your days or towards your goals? And getting very clear on that why. Because if the why isn't very big, let's just say the why is because I want to lose 5 pounds, or because I want my button on my jeans to feel a little less tight, that why may not feel as important as making sure that you get the kids to all of their activities and dinner made. So I would get very clear on why that movement is really, really important to you, and also clarity on how often do I require to get that movement in? Can I fit it in on a weekend? My day off, what does that look like as well?
Yeah, and then just finding the things that we're actually excited about doing. We have clients that just working out is not their thing. They don't want to go to a gym, and that's okay. Everybody's idea of what movement means is different. So for some clients, it means that they're going out mountain bike riding. For other ones, it means that they're going climbing mountains or hiking or just going on walks with friends and family. So it really doesn't have to look the same for everybody. And again, we have to pay attention to what we say yes to, right? So right now you're in this challenge. We've said yes to this. Now maybe the movement, the workout side of things isn't happening because of scheduling and responsibilities and business and all the things, and we get that 100%. So what are we willing to say yes to? Where are we willing to compromise? Maybe it's taking the kids with us for a walk when they get home from school. So it's a non-negotiable. We take the dogs and the kids for a walk, and that's our movement for the day. And that's awesome, right? We all have a starting point. We all have something that we are willing to create the space and time for. So just looking at what we're willing to say yes to.
Or maybe you start to include your family into that movement. So maybe it becomes a family movement challenge. I happen to know that Tara's got 2 boys in hockey. So with that being said, maybe you guys just pick a movement from, the body weight movements that you guys try as a family, or see who can do the movement the longest or something like that, where it becomes more of this community effort.
Gamify it,
and you
yeah.
gamify it versus it being something that I have to do and I'm not really looking forward to.
Love it. Okay, Christine's Rose workouts. Do a 30-minute every morning. That's awesome. Good job. Bud is preparing lunches. Dinners was a habit we already did. That's awesome. I love that. And Thorn, staying positive about the process. Easy to let self-doubts get in the way.
That's that brain, right? That self-doubt is always going to be there, because when we have a thought process, I think of it like a table. That table has 4 legs that hold it up. So you have a minimum of 4 reasons that support that self-doubt or whatever other kind of limiting factors you have coming in here. And the only way that we can overcome it, if I can always get the English out, is to begin to tap away at those table legs. So start to show your brain why those things are not true, or the truth around this. Like, maybe I have self-doubt if I can even do this, but I'm actually noticing that I am getting changes from the little bit of things that I am doing, or I'm feeling better. So these changes are working in some sort of way. So starting to just reaffirm for yourself, show yourself the areas in which things are working and that you are making progress, and keep focusing on the positive, because that'll bring more positive. We have this thing in our brain called our reticular activating system. Its job is to look for similarities or the things you tell it to look for.
So we place our focus.
Right? So if I say to you, hey, did you notice all the white cars on your way to work? And you're like, no, because I wasn't looking for them. And I'll say, okay, well, on your way home today, I want you to notice how many white cars are on the road.
Every car will be white.
And you're like, why does everybody drive a white car? Like, it's miraculous. All of a sudden, everybody drives a white car. No, it's not that there's more white cars on the road. It's just that you're more aware of the white cars that are there. So if you begin to focus on the positive things, you'll notice all of that many more positive things in your life, versus focusing on the negative things and the things that aren't going right, because we can really start to wrap ourselves up in that.
Yeah, 100%. And then the last thing I do want to say, Christine, staying positive about the process, and it's easy to have self-doubt get in the way. When I read through your Rose and your Bud, it sounds amazing, right? Workouts. So your Rose was you're doing 30 minutes every single morning. Your Bud is preparing lunches, starting to get into that meal prep for the lunch things, because you already did the dinners. So when I start to look at this, we are always our own biggest critics every single time. Doesn't matter if it's her, if it's me, if it's you listening to this podcast right now. We are always our own biggest critics. So when we start to take a step back from the view of perfection, that I want everything to be the exact way that I feel it needs to be for me to attain the goal that I'm looking for, and start to look at the progress rather than the perfection, we can start to sit in a place of that positivity. We can start to sit in the knowing that we are on the right track, that we're creating the changes that we want, because you're already working out every morning for 30 minutes. You're already prepping your dinners and now you're prepping your lunches. You are taking the steps and you're following actionable items to create the change in your life. So that is powerful. That is a beautiful place to start. Starting to put, again, like Kayla was saying, switch that focus from what might not be happening to all of the things we're already doing and that we can celebrate. And we get to push ourselves towards our goals that much harder.
100%. Ashley says, Rose, I feel back on track with eating and I enjoyed my meeting with Kayla to look at my exercise form. But I'm starting to hone in on my real goals and how I can achieve them in a realistic way. I love this. We've been talking about this for a while. Thorn, there's a lot of ways to get what I want. I'm having trouble choosing the most effective path for me to achieve my goals. Yes, when Ashley was in and we were looking at her form on some movements, we had a very real talk about all of the different ways that we could achieve a goal and the timelines around those ways and what we were willing to do. So I know that she is thinking about this and we're looking at
Contemplation phase.
Yeah.
Where are we going next?
And I love this because this is that thought process of where do we go from here? And so I can't give you an answer. I know it's a thorn because you're sitting in indecision right now, but that's an okay place to be because maybe you start to look at realistically, what do I actually want? What do I want my lifestyle to look like? So I like this, Ashley. I know it's an uncomfortable place to sit, but it's where growth really does take place. Anything to add?
Well, won't go back to it.
Okay, go ahead.
Just click back so I can read it. So the biggest thing I'm just wanted to chime in for 1 second. A lot of ways to get what you want, having trouble choosing the most effective path for me to achieve my goals. So the way I look at it is, what is the overall goal? The most direct route and the other route that you're looking at, right? And then what is the timeline you want for your goal?
Right? What is the commitment?
Well, and this is what I mean. Timeline wise, if we do everything absolutely perfect, we might get there unless I'm just picking numbers, say 8 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever, 10 weeks. If we take the non-direct route, maybe we're there in 14 to 16 weeks. Does that extra 4 to 6 weeks make a big difference? Okay. If it does, maybe we're looking at the shorter way. If the extra 4 to 6 weeks to achieve your goal doesn't feel like it's that daunting or doesn't feel like it's going to be that offsetting, but it's going to create more space and more time because everybody seems to have the same constraints around time, maybe we look at the slower option for getting there so that we are allowing ourselves more grace and more space to create those changes. So again, just kind of looking at the overall goal, the timelines for both options to getting towards that goal. And again, timelines change, right? You can be doing everything absolutely perfect by the book, and we can still miss our goals sometimes. And that's just life because every body is different. Every single person that we train is a different person. So this is where we start to learn how our bodies adapt and how our bodies change and how we can most effectively create change in that.
Well, and coming back to your why am I doing this? Why is this goal important to me? And what does it mean if I achieve this goal? Because your reason for going towards a goal is going to change all the time. When I first started competing, my reason was not nearly the same as it is today. So looking at the why and allowing that to change as well. Christine says her Rose meals totally healthy and in calorie portions. Whoop, whoop.
Let's go.
Bud workouts slept wrong, so have some neck pains, which increased with Monday's workouts. Oh, sorry. Thorn, I guess the neck pain. I'm trying to stretch during the day, but after Monday's workout and Tuesdays, it doesn't seem to be coming along. So maybe more stretching, maybe some rest, maybe a massage.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a neck stretch because yeah. So I'm just gonna take my sweater off to make my life easy. I'm gonna pretend it's a towel. Okay, so this is now a towel. So if you take a towel and you drape it over your shoulder, and then we actually sit on said towel and then pull it over our shoulders so that we depress that scapula, we're pulling that shoulder down, and then stretch the neck to the side. One of the best stretches you're going to get for your neck. So again, towel you're sitting on comes over the shoulder. We pull the shoulder down, stretch our ear towards the opposite side. That whole side of the neck is going to get the biggest stretch you can give it.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. Krista says, Rose, I'm feeling really good eating whole foods and working out and finding balance between focusing on my health and nutrition and real life. But I'm really enjoying learning from the podcast and information you guys are putting out is making for some interesting discussions with friends and family too. I love that. I love opening up discussions. Thorn, I am working on staying motivated and consistent and not letting the excitement of the challenge wear off so that I don't start to make compromises that aren't in line with my goals. Have you written your goals down? Do you have a vision board? Have you worked on what you want your life to look like and begin to reverse engineer that? So there's lots of things that we can do to keep momentum going, but at the end of the day, it's consistency and dedication long after that motivation wears off.
Yeah. And I love what you said about a vision board. So if you've never made a vision board, those can be very powerful. So it's literally taking pictures of things that you are working towards, whether they are monetary or if they are things, if they're cars, if they're experiences and vacations, if they are just simply going to the beach and feeling comfortable on the beach. There's a million things that you can put onto these vision boards, but then once we build these vision boards, put them somewhere where you are always going to see them. So again, that reticular activating system, our mind is always seeing the vision of where we want our life to be. And it starts to create pathways, neural pathways too, that are going to start to help create that space and create that excitement and awareness around where we're going.
100%. I love that. Okay.
Hannah.
Hannah
said her Rose is meal prep and planning, which is awesome. Her bud is eating better portion sizes. Whoop, whoop. Thorn, eating out quite a bit right now, so trying to be more conscious of that and also trying not to cut things out completely. I love that, actually.
I've never cut out a whole food group.
Yeah.
No.
Well, and just again, allowing yourself that the ability to still enjoy your life, right? We can have focus. Focus is a beautiful thing. When Kayla and I go to stage, we get very, very, very focused on our nutrition. We get very focused on our workouts, but we still allow ourselves to go to El Gaucho and eat so much meat we're going to pass out. No, we still allow ourselves some of the things that we enjoy. And again, everything in moderation. It's not like when we're going to stage, it's not like we get to eat out all the time. It's not like we get to eat bags and bags of chips. But we still do create the space and the allowance for ourselves to live. So you gotta find that balance where, yes, again, that 80-20 rule, we are 80% of the time eating things that fall in line with our goals. We are following what we believe is going to work for us. And then the other 20%, we're allowing ourselves to enjoy life and live a bit.
100%. And if you're eating out a lot, maybe you start to get like the to-go containers and portion out your food while you're eating out so that maybe you have some leftovers for later, for a snack or for tomorrow's lunch or whatever that looks like. So you can keep within those eating of your better portion sizes, like you said, your bud was, and just kind of find new tricks that allow you to still eat out and about, but in a healthier way. If you guys want resources on eating on the go or eating out, we have a ton of them for healthy fast food options and those kinds of things.
That's the only other thing I was going to say is we do have those resources. They are awesome resources on how to, create that while you are eating out.
Yeah. 100%. So that is our chat today, guys. Thank you so much for sending in your rosebud thorns. Please continue sending them in. We love hearing them. We love discussing them, and hopefully you guys learned something today.
Yeah, have an awesome day, guys, and thank you guys for listening.
Take care. Bye for now.